Hello, welcome. Thanks for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Gomez Singh. Topping our newscast, the nation was rocked by a monumental Supreme Court ruling on same-sex marriage, and it has direct repercussions for the territory. What does the ruling mean for the local gay and lesbian community, and how will local legislation adapt? News 2's April Knight has that story.
VI Equality for All President Michelle Weichman was with her mother when she heard about the historic Supreme Court ruling.
I said, Mom, hold on, we have to pause our conversation because the Supreme Court is going to announce the ruling on same-sex marriage.
On Friday, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled 5-4 in favor of same-sex marriage for all 50 states, the District of Columbia, and U.S. territories.
I jumped up and down a lot in Deli Deck. It was a very exciting moment for me.
Weichman joined other locals in celebration. She and her wife Desiree LaCharity had to get married in New Jersey last year, even though they wanted to tie the knot in the Virgin Islands. Instead, they settled for a local symbolic ceremony. The Supreme Court decision means significant changes for Weichman's family.
There was a possibility that some of the benefits and rights that we have as a married couple in New Jersey would not be afforded here. Ruling affects us greatly. We no longer have to worry if anything were to happen to either one of us. We don't have to have power of attorney or all of that paperwork.
Currently, VI law states that marriage is a union between man and woman. As for changing the wording of the law so it follows the highest court in the land, Senate President Neville James said he's waiting for legal opinion. Puerto Rico, meanwhile, has already followed suit.
Weichman says she hopes the ruling would empower gays and lesbians in the territory.
There are a lot of gays and lesbians in the VI. There are a lot, but they are afraid to come out and be themselves. I'm hoping with this ruling that they won't feel alone anymore.
Reporting for News 2, I'm April Knight.
And we will have Senator Neville James and more reactions to the Supreme Court's legalization of same-sex marriage in a later newscast. Well, following the Supreme Court's ruling, Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett released a statement saying, "Today's 5-4 Supreme Court decision is no doubt a landmark in the progression of our democracy and has made it clear that same-sex marriage is a constitutional right in the United States. As a lawyer who truly loves the law, and in my personal growth as a Christian and also being a parent, watching my own children and reflecting on our world today, I joined President Obama in support of the Supreme Court's decision. As a lawyer and as a member of our legislative branch of government, it is my hope that all will respect the court's ruling." In other news, Fabian Towers, 50, made his initial appearance in district court today before U.S. Magistrate Ruth Miller after his arrest for illegal possession of body armor. Towers was remanded to the custody of the U.S. Marshals Service pending a detention hearing scheduled for July 1, 2015. On April 9, 2015, a federal grand jury returned a 2-count indictment charging Towers with possession of body armor by a violent felon in violation of federal and territorial law. According to the indictment, Towers possessed a bulletproof vest and had previously been convicted of first-degree robbery in 1982 and 1983. As a person convicted of a crime of violence, Towers is prohibited from possessing body armor. The Senate Committee on Culture, Historic Preservation, Youth, and Recreation met Monday to discuss a number of bills before it. One was legislation to develop a program to take place during the next 10 years. It would recognize the contributions of people of African descent. News' Erica Parsons has that story.
Bill 31-79 is calling for a resolution to get the VI involved in the International Decade for People of African Descent.
We've been doing this type of work and research ongoing, and we've had some opportunities to work with some of the architects of this entire decade piece.
The 10-year recognition beginning this year was adopted by the United Nations 2 years ago. UVI and cultural professionals testified in support of getting the governor to join with lawmakers in developing a comprehensive program focused on education and awareness of African descendants' contributions. A former educator said while she supports the bill's intent, she feels that lawmakers should be more focused on designing a VI history curriculum, something she says is not being taught presently.
I'm simply here to ask that we focus on dealing with getting our information, our history, properly instituted in the schools where it should be.
Senator Tregenza Roach agreed with former educator Mary Moorhead. He said he offered a bill providing the money to develop the VI history and culture curriculum, but it's stuck in committee. He said he's not sure he wants to support the UN's initiative when he considers some of their past practices. Bill sponsor Senator Myron Jackson said this is the second time he's offered this bill, and he's not sure what would happen if it was voted down.
You could vote it up or you could vote it down. I'm stepping away from it.
Testifiers said residents have lost their identity, and that stems from being westernized through American culture, even down to education. But the VI history can be incorporated in the 10-year plan.
It's an opportunity for us to network and actually garner the type of support and engagement so that we can enforce the Virgin Islands history measures, the Caribbean history measures.
Erica Parsons, News 2.
Sunday, June 28, 2015, at roughly 11:40 p.m. in crime reports, the 911 emergency call center received notification that the Racino at the Randall Dock James Racetrack was robbed. Preliminary information indicates that a vehicle reported as have been stolen drove up to the entrance where several individuals went into the establishment with guns and demanded money from patrons and staff. The suspects fled the area with an undisclosed amount of cash and exchanged gunfire with security personnel as they drove off. The vehicle was recovered minutes after the robbery in the vicinity of Home Depot, abandoned by the suspects. Police conducted a search for the suspects with negative results. Keeping our eye on the economy, here's the New York Stock Exchange with our stock market watch. As we can see, everything down. The Dow, 350, NASDAQ, 122, S&P 500, 43. Coming up on News 2, Senator Marvin Blyden, chair of the Housing Committee at the Senate, congratulates the Housing Finance Authority for successfully holding the 5th annual VI Housing Expo. Highlights coming up. Also, festival is in full swing on Love City, St. John. We'll have a list of all the events and highlights of opening night.